Hello and welcome to my March reading wrap up. I read 14 books in the month of March and I'm going to run through some stats first while we're here on numbers. So I read 14 books which amounted to 5,397 pages. 7 of them were by BIPOC authors. I hauled 19 books, but it was my birthday month, so you know. I DNF'd 1 book and I only read 1 book from my top 22 for 2022 list, which I will flag up when we get there. I also did not finish any series, apart from one series that I binge read the whole thing, which I'll talk about. I started though 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 series. I started 6 series. Yeah. Good. Okay. Let's just get into it, shall we? So, the first book that I read was Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan, which is the first book in a duology. So it is the start of a new series, but it's only a duology, so it's not, you know, the end of the world. And this one follows Xingyin, who, well, she's the daughter of the Moon Goddess. Obviously, and she starts off the story. It's a folk tale legend retelling, so you might be familiar with the story already, but Xingyin starts off the story with her mother in Moon Goddess territory, as it were, and she has to, I don't want to give away too much, she has to leave that place for her own safety and kind of fake who she is to be able to fit in the Celestial Kingdom, but she desperately wants to free her mother from being stuck in, I can't remember the name of the place that she is, the moon, yeah, the moon. Okay, I liked this. I didn't love it. I did like the writing. I thought the writing was very good. I didn't ever really super connect with any of the characters. I feel like a lot of this went by far too quickly for me to properly connect to anything, and this is actually a theme that I am seeing in myself, which I might have a chat with you about that at some point. But I liked this, didn't love it. I feel like I think it's sold as adult, but I think it's YA, to be honest. Upper end of YA, but still YA, and I think I would have preferred it if it had been, like, more noticeably adult. Then I read Finley Donovan is Killing It by El Cosimino, which is also the first book in a series, maybe a duology, I'm not sure. I have the second book ready and waiting for me to pick up when I need that little mood lift that this one is going to give me. This book was so funny. It's about Finley Donovan, who is a writer. She writes mystery novels, thriller novels, and she is in a cafe talking to her editor about one of her stories and how she can't figure out how to kill off this character. And someone overhears and misunderstands and thinks that Finley is an assassin for hire, and so hires her to kill someone for her. And it's just a comedy of errors from there on in. It's absolutely hilarious from start to finish, and also a really interesting story. And I really liked the character Finley and some of the side characters as well. I really liked Finley is a mum, and it was wonderful. I had an amazing time reading this one. It's definitely one of my top 2 of the month. Highly recommend. Next I read Catalyst by Sarah Beth Durst. This is a middle grade about a cat. Funnily enough, it's not. It's about Zoe, who has a cat who she names, a kitten that she names Pipsqueak, but Pipsqueak keeps growing and growing and growing until she's like the size of an elephant, which clearly is not the normal size for a cat, or at least not a domestic house cat, or any kind of cat actually. Anyway, so she's trying to figure out what she can do so that her kitten doesn't get taken away and experimented on and that sort of thing. It's a middle grade. It was super fun and charming and easy to read, and I love Sarah Beth Durst. Really enjoyed myself, and if you like cats, would recommend. I mean, I'd recommend it if you don't like cats also, although if you don't like cats, then are you okay? But if you particularly like cats, I particularly recommend it. Then I read The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. This one, I liked it, but I didn't love it. It was fine. It's not my favourite by them. I still love Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating, and also The Unhoneymooners by them, but I really liked the concept of this one. So the concept of this one is that you can find your perfect partner, your soulmate, through your DNA and through maths. And I found that really interesting as a concept, and I really liked the way that they paid that concept off. It's just that I wasn't super invested in the relationship. I was more invested in the storyline, which isn't necessarily the way that you want a romance to go. You want the investment to be in the romance, not in the story. So I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. Then a book that was a very sad flop. I buddy read this with Jessie from the channel The Bookish Mum, and we both had very similar feelings about this one, which is unfortunate because we were both really looking forward to reading it and we were both really hoping to love it, and that's Battle Royale by Kashun Takami. This is like the original Hunger Games. I don't know if it's the original. I think there's a classic that came before this. The name is escaping me. Am I making that? Anyway, doesn't matter. Point is, this is about 42 high school students who are pitted against each other, and they're told that they have to murder each other, and if they don't kill each other, then these metal collars that they have around their necks are going to blow them up anyway, so they might as well take their chances and try to survive by killing each other off. And I thought, yes, it's going to be brutal, it's going to be brilliant, and it is brutal. And it is pretty graphic in its brutality, which I don't have a problem with, but bear it in mind in case you do. If you don't like blood, guts and gore, then maybe give this one a miss. I mean, I suggest giving this one a miss anyway, but particularly if you don't like that kind of thing. The problem that I had with this is it's far too long, firstly. And I said this to Jessie. I said, I think that Suzanne Collins was onto something when she started off with 24 and then she had the quarter quell at the beginning to just get rid of a ton of them, so we're actually left with a much smaller group of kids killing each other off. There were too many. There were too many kids in this. There were 42. They all had names, and we spent time with each and every one of them, and we spent time looking at the backstory of each and every one of them before they were about to die. It got repetitive, it got boring. I was getting information about people that I didn't have time to form a connection with them, and so I did not need all of this information. And also there was a weird amount of time spent on these students discussing with each other who had a crush on whom. I didn't understand that element of it at all. It was constantly like, oh, this person likes this person likes this person. I'm like, you're all dying. Do you not have better things to be thinking about right now? I didn't get it. I didn't enjoy it. I did finish it because it was a buddy read, but honestly, if I hadn't been buddy reading it, I would have DNF'd it. I really would have, because this was not what I wanted. Not what I wanted. And it's a shame because I was really looking forward to reading this, and it's a really pretty book, but just no, cannot recommend. Next, I read Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson, and the thing about this one is it doesn't really stick with me. So I liked it at the time that I was reading it, and I was happy to be reading it, but it just wasn't making an impact on me at all. I really don't know how to explain it any other way. It very much felt like it felt a lot like her second book, Sorcery of Thorns, if you've read that. I mean, which I suppose makes sense because, you know, it's the same author, so the vibe would be the same. But it felt quite close. It felt quite close in the whole, you know, things manifesting. That's what I'll say, because I don't want to be spoilery. But honestly, I also just can't remember a whole lot about this book because it didn't make much of an impression or an impact on me. And I know I get a lot, you know, not a lot. Some people say to me, you know, can you actually remember what happens in the books that you read because you read so many books? And I'm like, well, if it's a good book, then yes, because it will make an impact on me and I'll remember it. But if it's a book that's just fine, then no. But what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. If it didn't make an impression on me, why should I let it take up space in my head, you know? So it was fine. I don't have much to say about it. Then I read Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians by Brandon Sanderson, which was the other top book of the month for me. Loved this one. What can I tell you about it? I feel like it's the kind of book that I don't want to tell you too much about because it's such an experience to read it. It's told in a very interesting way. It breaks the fourth wall quite a lot. The narrator is actually talking to you, the reader, and I don't want to tell you what it's about. I think you should just read it. I think, let me read you the synopsis because that's all I read before I read it, and I think that that's the way to go because I could explain to you what it's about, but I feel like it would ruin it. So what does the thingy say? On his 13th birthday, foster child Alcatraz Smedry gets a bag of sand in the mail, his only inheritance from his father and mother. He soon learns that this is no ordinary bag of sand. It is quickly stolen by the cult of evil librarians who are taking over the world by spreading misinformation and suppressing truth. Alcatraz must stop them, using the only weapon he has, an incredible talent for breaking things. That's actually the perfect amount of information. I don't want to tell you any more than that. But it's fantastic. It's hilarious. I don't know why I didn't realise how good Brandon Sanderson would be at writing children's fiction, but he is. And I shouldn't be surprised by that because he just has that kind of silly mind that would work so well for a children's book. And I just loved it. And I can't wait to read the rest of the series. I've been restraining myself. Honestly, I wanted to just go ahead and binge the whole series immediately after finishing the first one. But the last book isn't out until August? September? I can't remember which. So I want to read one a month until that last book is out, and I'm excited. It was really, really fun. Really enjoyed myself. Then I read Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. I've read one book by Ashley Herring Blake before, I think. Anyway, really enjoyed this. It's about, I'm so bad with names, Delilah Green, obviously, and Claire. And Delilah has to go back to her small hometown to be the photographer for her stepsister's wedding, and she doesn't really want to go, but the money is good, so she does, and she hates being there, but, you know, the money is good, so she does. And Delilah Green is a serial philanderer, shall we say. She sleeps around a lot. She doesn't like to have any sort of permanence in her relationships. And then she doesn't even meet Claire. She re-meets Claire and things just change. And it's really cute. Claire has a daughter? She's a single mum. I think it's a daughter. It doesn't really matter. She has a daughter, and I really enjoyed the relationship between Delilah and Claire. I enjoyed the relationship between Delilah and her stepsister. I enjoyed the relationship Delilah had with herself throughout the story. It's pretty short and quick. It's romance, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself. This was a good fun time. Then we come to the series that I read the entirety of in the month of March, and I had planned on binge reading this trilogy, and so I did, and that was the Angelfall trilogy by Susan E. So we had Angelfall, World After, and End of Days. These are dystopian angel romance fiction, so it's post-apocalyptic. Angels have come and torn down our society and killed thousands, and so humans are kind of hiding from the angels that now live on Earth. And Penryn, our protagonist, sort of inadvertently, kind of, saves an angel, and they end up sort of teaming up, and that's all I'll say. This is not amazing literature. Let's just put it out there. It's junk food. It's junk food. This is terminology that I've heard from Abby from the channel Abby Salter recently, and that's exactly what this series is. It's junk food in book form, and I really enjoyed myself. Wasn't nutritional at all, but I didn't even care that it was rotting my brain teeth. I had a fun time, okay? Then I read The Grimrose Girls by Laura Pohl, which is, I'm guessing, how you pronounce that surname. This follows 4 girls at an elite private boarding school in Switzerland, of all places. And they're all, you know, very rich, naturally. And 3 of them are already friends, and their 4th friend died, committed suicide, or so the story goes. Some of them don't believe that's true. And the 4th girl that is a character in this is a new student, and she ends up sharing a room with a couple of the original girls. And basically they start investigating what actually happened to Ariane, the girl who died, and whether or not it actually was suicide, or whether it was potentially a little bit more mysterious than that. And I liked this book but didn't love it, but I really can't explain why I didn't love it without spoilers. So for those of you who either have already read this or aren't bothered by spoilers or aren't planning on reading this, then you can stick around and hear my reasons, and everybody else just skip ahead until I put this book down. I'm not going to say much. Basically, I'm getting spoilers now. Basically, the thing is with these kinds of books, when there appears to be some sort of supernatural reason for whatever death there has been, I don't like it if it turns out to actually be a supernatural reason. Now, I realise that that makes no sense because I'm a reader who loves fantasy. So why am I offended by mystery books with fantastical plot lines or reasons for the events? But I don't like it. I prefer it when we're in the mystical, we're in the fantastical, but then there's a perfectly rational explanation for everything. That is what I like. I feel like it's cleverer. I like it better. And this didn't do that. This leaned into the fairy tales are real and these girls are dying because of magic reasons. I don't like that. It's very much based on the Grimm's brothers fairy tales, hence the name, I'm guessing. But yeah, it just, no. So that's that one. And then I read a book that I really enjoyed, which was, well, I really enjoyed it in the end, but the start was a little bit rough for me, and that's Fireborn by Rosaria Munda. So I struggled a little bit at the beginning of the story to connect to the characters because there was just a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of backstory backstory being thrown in. There's a lot of setup and plot happening early on in the story, and as you may know, I'm a character-driven reader, so if I don't feel connected to the characters, then I don't really care what's happening with the plot. But by about, I want to say maybe 60-70% of the way through the book, I really got there with the characters and I really connected, and I flew through the rest of it and really enjoyed the rest of the book. So I think I just needed a minute with this one, or more than a minute, to settle into the story and settle into the characters. I feel like I probably don't really need to tell you what this is about, because this has been floating around on BookTube for a while. It's one of Elle from Elliot Brooks' obsessions. It's got dragons in it, so really, you know, it's the cream of the crop as far as fantasy goes. Anything that has dragons in it, you know, you're in for a good time, and I'm glad I ended up having that good time. We follow two characters, Annie and Lee, which is a little weird for me because Lee is my partner's name, but anyway. So we follow Annie and Lee, who are dragon riders. And basically the dragon riders are like the warriors, I guess, in this world. And they're kind of engaging in this competition to become sort of the big boss of the dragon riders, I guess is what you could call it. And then we're getting kind of their past, because this regime that they're living in is a new one, and it's based on the Russian Revolution. So Lee was the son of who would have been the Tsar, and Annie was one of the people oppressed by his father's government, but they have been raised together in the same orphanage and they're very, very close, but of course they're from very different backgrounds. And it just took me a little bit of time to connect with the characters, but once I was there, I was really there. And then the last book that I read in the month of March, I don't have my copy of yet, I just listened to it on audio, and that was The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake, which I really loved. I really liked it. The audiobook was fantastic, by the way. Highly recommend the audiobook. I really liked reading about the characters, but I did not like any of the characters. None of the characters are likable. They are all, you know, either horrible or at best annoying, and you know, you wouldn't want to be friends with any of these people. Do I want to read about them? Yes, absolutely I do. But do I want to be friends with any of them? Never. No, I don't even want to meet them. Like, no. So that's interesting, because I don't think I've really read any books where there wasn't a character that I liked, and I didn't really like any of these characters. No, I didn't like any of them. They were all awful, but I loved reading about them. They are picked to potentially join this secret society, the Alexandrian Society, which, you know, based on the Library of Alexandria, which in this fictional version of our world still exists but is just hidden and is accessible, as in the materials are accessible by members of the Alexandrian Society, and there are mysteries to solve, and it's very magical. The magic is very science heavy, so I honestly, this is the kind of book that I would have preferred to immersion read if I had the option. I sadly did not have the option because my copy has not arrived yet, and I'm going to an author event in about a week and a half, so I really wanted to make sure that I'd read it before I went to that, and I don't know when my physical copy from Fairy Loot is going to arrive, but either way, I really enjoyed this one. I definitely want to reread the last few chapters once my physical copy arrives, just so I can make sure that I really do understand what happened, because it is a little bit kind of mind-bendy in places, but I thoroughly enjoyed it and I really look forward to the sequel. And then just very briefly, The book that I DNF'd this month was The House at the Edge of Magic by Amy Sparks. This one was just, it's a middle grade, but it was just too young for me. You know, I like middle grade, but it has to be the upper end of middle grade, and that one was just, it was just too far down the age range for me, so didn't work. But that is it. Those are the 14 books that I did read and the one book that I did not read or did not finish, and that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video and want to see more like this from me, then do think about hitting that subscribe button, and I hope to see you here again soon. Thanks. Bye.